Let's take a look at downtown Cleveland right now and kind of take a peek towards Progressive Field. And there it is. The lights are on, and I'll tell you why. Because the Indians are working out, and they're about ready to get involved in an inter-squad scrimmage. And we'll show you some highlights from that coming up at 11 o'clock tonight. Baseball is on our minds because it's 2 weeks from tonight when the Indians will open up the season. It's also on the mind of Leon-Bibb tonight.
Winds of change have reached Cleveland's team. During the early days of spring training, few would have guessed baseball would be dealing with the pandemic's shift of winds. As well, Cleveland wrestles with the idea of a name change of the team, one spurred by social shifts in the wind.
No justice, no peace.
Cleveland's team name could be whisked away in this wind of change. As umpires rehearse their cries of play ball in a pandemic-shortened season, I am reminded we've been here before, with both a war and a worldwide killer flu in 1918 and 19. The First World War forced baseball to shorten its 18th season, although the World Series was played. In 1919, the flu, which was still building, got so bad baseball again shortened its schedule. But now in 2020 came another Major League brushback pitch. Coronavirus throws hard and wild. Baseball is looking for its footing again, probably without large in-person crowds. The majors is not alone in trying to be a hit again. So are the rest of us. Where most of us were happily in the presence of others, now we're mostly alone. "2020 has been the year coronavirus threw a breaking ball slicing in on us. The virus upended our schedules and stole our comfort. Now Cleveland is looking at a doubleheader. Simultaneously blowing are the winds of health concern over a virus issue and a name change over a racial issue. When baseball resumes, it will not be just catchers and umpires behind protective masks. The rest of us will also mask up. When Cleveland baseball resumes, with whatever name is stitched on the players' jerseys, this community will continue to face health issues and racial issues, with the realization there is more on the field than the game itself. For 3 News, I'm Leon-Bibb.
Well, thanks for that, Leon. And I was kind of wondering, when he was out on the field there, was that Lindor? And no, it was Bibb out there playing. So a great piece right there by Leon-Bibb.